Before we get started with the show, I'd like to thank our sponsors. Our first sponsor is Atmos Planning, financial planners turning visionaries into meaningful millionaires. Our second sponsor of the day is Planet Duct. Reach out to them for any of your air duct cleaning needs. Now, let's get on with the show. Welcome back to the COS Business Podcast, the #1 podcast in Colorado Springs. My name is Andrew Hasley, and I am the host of the show. Today, I'm sitting here with Marcus Alvarado, the co-owner of the show,
Co-founder, yeah.
Co-founder. And let's discuss what we're going to discuss, and which is the People's Tiny House Festival that is coming up July 17th and 18th, correct?
Correct, yeah. So it's July 17th and 18th. It's going to be a Saturday and Sunday in Loveland at the Ranch Events Complex, 2 weeks away. So we're excited / a little nervous, but that's normal. So just, kicking into gear now and getting ready for it. So it's going to be big.
Okay.
I'm excited about it.
How many people are estimated to be attending?
Well, let's see. I think right now we're just shy of 30,000 people. So it's going to be pretty big, man. It's going to be.
And that's people that have bought tickets already.
So that's a combination of those who are interested and those who have bought it. But what we know by the numbers is that usually by those who have already bought tickets pre-registered for the festival, usually about 8 to 10 times that actually show up. So those numbers right now are hitting right there. We're already projecting 30,000. Now on Facebook, it's already showing 29,000 interested or going. Mm-hmm. So I've never had that before. I've had 30,000 people come in the past, but usually that's 17,000 interested or going
on Facebook.
Okay. So we'll see how this goes. That's pretty
You're
exciting.
Expecting some big things happening. The biggest event so far.
Yeah.
Thus far.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
We're starting 2021 with a bang. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, we'll dig more into that in this episode and really why we think that's happening, what you guys are doing, and all that fun stuff. But first, we're going to roll the intro music, and let's hit that. This is a show where we have real conversations with entrepreneurs and business owners who are mostly in Colorado Springs doing things in the community of Colorado Springs. That's my favorite part, though.
Yeah.
Bling, bling, bling.
That's the best part.
Yeah. Well, sweet, man. So why do you think that so many people are showing up this year?
I think that COVID set people aside for a year and a half. They had nothing to do. And this year they're just trying to get out, man. It's insane. Normally we have a lot more folks coming from outside the country. Obviously that's different for a COVID world. Mm-hmm. We still have one other country represented, Mexico.
Yeah, Mexico.
So we will have some international presence there. Mm-hmm. But as far as like domestically, the numbers have never looked this good this early on from 2 weeks out. So I think people will stir crazy. They want to get out. They want to have fun. This is a family-friendly event. They're going to be able to bring dogs as well. So I think it's like one of their first real outings for a lot of these folks. So yeah, it's showing in the numbers already. Yeah,
that's very interesting to me when I still see people say that they're just now going out, because I've been going out since I never stopped. So it kind of blows my mind a little bit. I guess it kind of blows my mind a little bit because it's interesting to see that people are literally just now going out. Like this is like their first time. For some people, it's going to be their first time going out since COVID happened. It's interesting because some people haven't even gone to this week will be their first week that they've gone to a restaurant since COVID happened. Like that's interesting to me because I've been going to restaurants the whole time.
Yeah.
I've been supporting those restaurants.
You're an entrepreneur, man, so you're already a risk taker by nature, so you're probably ahead of the curve just like with other things that you do. You go against the grain, but for a lot of these people, I mean, that's the big thing too, right? So we're entering a new market. We've never been in Loveland, Colorado ever. We're usually in southern Colorado, usually here in the Springs or in Fountains. So we're looking for an economic impact, man. So if you're bringing that many people to a town, there's going to be some serious restaurants being hit by a lot of folks, hotels, attractions. That's what the power of event does of this magnitude.
For sure.
So we're excited about that. That's why when we go into a market, we have to reach out to the chamber. We have to reach out to the visitor center, to the surrounding community. They have a Shields up there. We've been reaching out to them. So it's not just about planning an event. It's about the prep. It's about getting the city ready for something of this size to go to it as well.
For sure.
And they haven't had anything like this yet over there in Loveland. They've communicated that as far as since COVID hit. So this is going to be the first big thing to hit the town. Shoot, man, in a year and a half. So we're excited.
Because comparison to restaurants, that's one thing. But big events like this, like these are just now starting to come back, and so that's exciting for you, exciting for everyone. So that's interesting, man. Do you think that there are any other aspects of why besides COVID, or do you think that's the main driver?
I think that's the main driver, but I mean, I've been doing this for a while, so
that's what I was thinking. Maybe it's just growing.
Yeah, I think it's just pure growth. I don't know if I communicated this on the initial episode, but I mean, I'm the longest standing organizer of tiny house festivals. So I've been doing this since 2014. I was one of the original people to start the big festivals for tiny houses. So my very first one was in 2015, but I was involved in the tiny house movement in 2014. So I'm the longest standing, meaning like no one was doing it back in 2015 when I started. They all started later on. So I think it's just building that brand.
Inspiration from you?
Totally. I think it's personal brand. I think it's the festival itself. I mean, the actual festival and its following just on Facebook alone. I know you've been following me on that as well. Grew from like 5,000 in the end of 2019 in followers on Facebook. Now we're at 40,000.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it's really grown through the hiatus of COVID. And again, that's what being an entrepreneur is, right? Is pivoting in those times of tribulations. That's what I did, man. I really focus on building our following, building up that brand awareness, putting out great professional content that's reaching out to influencers who are van lifers, who are people living in tiny houses. This festival is not just an expo with professional builders. It's folks who are DIYers who built their own, and they're coming to hang out, to camp for the weekend, who are also displaying their wares or their house or their van, everything of that sort. So it was a time for us to kind of reset, but also to build a bigger foundation. I think that's definitely a big piece to it too.
Yeah, and that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Well, so what's going on at the event? What do you guys? What kind of things can people expect?
Yeah, good question. So there's gonna be tiny houses there, as in the name. There's gonna be camper vans in there as well. So we're gonna have
which are mobile tiny houses.
Yeah. So I guess starting from the beginning, I always tell folks like tiny house is what you make it. It's different to everybody. That can be moving from an 8,000 square foot house to a 2,000 square foot house. It can be moving into a tiny house on wheels. It can be somebody who's like a single person who's living in a van that's really converted out. So
it could be Elon Musk.
It can be Elon Musk entering the tiny house industry, which we could probably talk about on this podcast as well.
Which is like those really permanent, like kind of tiny houses, I guess. Like they're there, and like that's the kind of location you want.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So we've always displayed different types of different things. Those are on permanent foundations. Those are on wheels, vans, school bus conversions. We have it all there. There's gonna be vendors there.
What do you call them? Schoolies.
Schoolies. So schoolies are converted school buses.
Yeah.
So that's a little vernacular in the tiny house movement. Is you call a school bus that's converted a schoolie. You call a tiny house a tiny. So they're like, oh, how many tinies are you bringing? Those are just vernaculars that have erupted as we've been doing this for a long time, and that's just that's the language of the movement. So, but yeah, vendors from all across the Front Range will be there as well. We'll have quite a few. It's been interesting. So, this event was slated for 2020. Okay, so we were pretty much done with planning by March of 2020. Well, what happened in March of 2020? COVID.
Yeah, COVID.
Right. We had all of our sponsors. We had all that. Thank goodness most of them have stayed on since then. But I mean, we lost a lot, especially on the vendor side. A lot of them went out of business. A lot of the people who we're talking to directly lost their job. So like
a lot of the people
pieces,
you talk to thrive in the event industries,
right?
So they couldn't operate.
One of the hardest things affected was the event industry for sure. So we lost a lot of people. There was a lot of fatalities, specifically in our industry, because we weren't even able to operate. We just had to shut down. So yeah,
there was no half capacity. There was no 25%. It was zero.
Zero, especially for something that's as big as our event, right? So. Yeah, I mean that's all gone into in effect. I mean, even I would say February of this year, I was like, what does it look like? Am I able to pick things back up where they were in 2020? Should I do this again? Because it was such a hard impact on not just all the industries I work with, but like me mentally to do this again. It takes a little bit out of you to do something like this.
For sure.
It's a lot on you, and think about every little thing that goes into an event: trash cans, porta potties, stage, sound, schedule, load in, load out, schedules for other people loading in, loading out, the volunteers, how many 150 volunteers. We've had that before in the past. So there's a lot of things I've pivoted with this event. We're not doing any volunteers. The first time I've ever done that. It's only family and friends.
Okay.
Which is volunteers, but no one can actually actively sign up as a volunteer who isn't a family friend of mine.
Why is that?
Just because this year, We don't know what we're looking at. We've done a couple things. First and foremost, this event's not a 3-day event anymore. Okay, it used to be a 3-day event, 7 hours a day, 21 overall operating hours for the festival. We've essentially cut that in half. Okay, so now we're at 2 days, 6 hours a day, 12 hours. So I think it's more so manageable to have the people I can really count on and just give them full shifts, not half shifts, 3 hour, 4 hour. We're just doing full day shifts for it. And yeah, we're just pivoting. We're just doing the best that we can. We've found out through all the years of doing these things that the biggest stress areas for any type of big event of this size is ticketing and parking. Well, we're normally used to parking in fields or, like something that doesn't have like marked out spaces, right? Well, this is an event center.
That's a hassle.
That's a big hassle. We don't have that
someone
this
out
year.
Here
Directing them in like the airplanes or something like that. We don't have to do that this year. There's marked spaces. We're gonna have 2 people out there the whole time. Then we're gonna have a shuttle service for the elderly. We have a lot of elderly who come to our festival as well.
Interesting.
So everybody that runs ticketing, there's 10 people that's gonna be running ticketing. It's all my family. It's gonna be my mom. It's gonna be
nice.
My sister and her kids. It's just gonna be the people I can really count on to manage the money. And so, yeah, we've pivoted and we'd realized, maybe there's some uses of space that we didn't need before, or maybe we should cut some things out. So again, COVID, right? It allowed for people to kind of sit back and like really, really think about, okay, how can I make things more efficient? And that's what we've done. So hopefully it shows through at the event. Hopefully it's not a disaster by doing that. So we'll see.
Yeah. Okay. So where can someone go right now if they're interested in going to the event?
Yeah. So you can go to Facebook, of course. People's Tiny House Festival is going to be the main driver where we're putting everything on the platform for. Instagram, peoplestinyhousefestival.com is the website. But right now we're plastered all over. So if you Google it, we're going to be on a couple different publications.
People's Tiny House Festival.
People's in plural. Yeah. So if you want to get tickets, peoplestinyhousefestival.com/tickets. That's where you're going to be able to get them, again, on Eventbrite as well. You can also get it on Facebook as well directly. So I think you got tickets from there directly as well.
That's how I got mine, yeah. And I like doing it that way because I think it's seamless, especially with a lot of your advertising too, probably.
Yeah.
Like it's right on the platform. That probably is helpful, I guess.
Oh, here's another thing, man. So I'm a marketer by trade. I run recon marketing. It's the hat to the side of me that you can barely see.
And you've been doing that even before you've run recon marketing, which is marketing.
Right. I was a marketer by trade before I had recon. Recon was birthed in lieu of having an event that's shut down.
Yeah.
But one thing that's kind of interesting that I wanted to bounce off of you that we haven't talked too much about is marketing an event. Okay. So marketing an event, you usually have a comprehensive plan of how you're going to do it. You're going to have radio. You're going to have newspaper publications that you want to be published on right before then. So when you get sponsors, you're like, okay, so we're going to have all these different outlets we're going to be on. If you want to sponsor us for this amount, then you're going to be able to have a shout out or a mention on that specific radio script or something like that. This year, I'm also pivoting that. It's 95% only social media that I'm running for this year's event. Never done that before. We'll see how that goes. Taking a lot of risks this year, so why the heck not?
You'll see how it goes. Obviously, it's going pretty well.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I put all the eggs in my basket as a professional marketer to be like, you know what? I don't want to get too much into the nerdy marketing stuff, but we have a hell of a platform. We're able to. It's called a cost per impression. It's the overall impressions every 1,000 impressions you get, how much it costs to get to there.
Yeah.
Okay. And we have targeted people that we go after. So usually it's just a blast to everybody. Okay. Cost per impression could be like $12, which is a good cost per impression. So it's $12 to get in front of 1,000 people. Okay, so for our event, while it's targeted, so it's a little bit more expensive typically, it's $3.98, and it's targeted. So anybody who's reached out to us in the festival, radio, news publications, they can't beat those numbers. We have a better platform to be able to blast out because we have such a large pool and such large engagement. So yeah, we have 40,000 people on our Facebook, but our engagement numbers are even. They'll probably have something of like 100,000 people.
And they can see other things. They can really get involved and really, really more than just a radio ad. Like they can actually be a part of the community.
Yeah. Well, one thing I've always wanted to do, especially this is before COVID, but I always wanted to tackle a bunch of different stacks of people. So it's not just like the hippies living in a van that are like, oh, this is cool stuff. I want to do this or convert this. It's hitting a bunch of different stacks. I mean, a lot of the folks that come to the festival are baby boomers, female baby boomers, who are looking at options for maybe just little things that they might be a conservative female from Alabama who really likes a post that I make because it's completely tailored towards them versus a single female, what we call van lifer, a gal living in a van. I might make a post on that. So we're tackling all these different tracks of people, and we do that on purpose because this festival has so many demographics that come to it. And that's all part of the plan too. So during the off season, I tackle the heck out of that.
Yeah.
So during this time, I don't have to worry about it. The engagement's already there. I make a post, hour later has 500 to 1,000 likes or shares or whatever.
Nice.
It's all automated. We've built the audience. We built the pipeline. We just plug into it, and that's what this is all about, man. But again, like no radio this year. We have had them reach out. There will be some press releases that will go out to news publications, but we're not going to pay for it.
Yeah.
So if the news wants to come out, some news stations are coming out, then cool. But I'm not going to pay for it. I'm going to rely on my marketing skills to get me there. This is the first time I put all the eggs in my basket as a marketer to see what happens. So
interesting.
We'll
Okay, yeah. And it's the first time, and you say that COVID is a big driver of the results. Do you think that some of this social media stuff is part of it?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
People are on their phone a lot more now than they've ever been. It was already going that way, but COVID expedited that process. People are still at home. We know between you and I, we're friends. We have other friends that we know that haven't even left the house yet. And we're like, what the heck? But that's what the world we live in is, okay? Some people are at risk. Some people, everybody's going through something different, right? But what we do know is they're usually on their phone, while they're doing whatever.
That is true.
Yeah, we've definitely made a push to do that. And again, like, it's team building. It's a lot of different things we did. Like, we have 2 full-time people year round that are helping me do this thing other than myself. It's really helped me not do like the little minuscule things.
Is this the first time this year?
I've done it before, but this is the best time that we've had the best, like, this is the most dialed in we've ever been for it.
Nice.
And then we have the budget for it too this year to really push people full-time to be like, this is what I really need help with. I can't even, I don't even need to think about it. Just help me and just take it done. It's your baby. You take care of it, essentially what we say. And that's what's happened, so it's about building the team too, man.
It sounds like last year all the cards fell down, but this year all the cards are perfectly stacked together.
Yeah.
Like by that I mean like everything's really, all the puzzle pieces are fitting perfectly together into each other, when exactly a year ago everything was chaos.
Yeah, and it's fun to realize that moment. I always have these self-realizations of different things that happen in your life where you're just like, this is it. This is the opportunity to really capitalize on something special to make your dent in the universe. I'm not shying away from that. I'm ready to do it, man. So, I mean, I've made some pretty big dents in the southern Colorado community, but I'm going all in, man. And and we could talk about that as being an entrepreneur. Like I always tell my friends, there's this heightened fear of anxiety when you spend all your money to do something. Of course, right? It's scary. You don't know what's going to happen with that. And every event, this is why I do the events, right? I'm a marketer. I do other things. We do the podcast, but I've never had it with an event because it's like, you're so all in on this thing. And there's so much up in the air that like the night before you're like, holy crap, people better show up because your fear is so high. But for some reason, like the sense of freedom and like I'm doing what the hell I want to do is just a little bit higher.
Yeah.
And it gives you like this crazy like chills of like, I'm free. I can die today and I'll be happy. I'm free. I'm doing exactly what's hardwired in my DNA to be an entrepreneur about. And it's awesome, man. Yeah.
So what are your plans for next year? Do you have any yet?
Usually I do.
Okay.
I have a couple things that I'm thinking about. I want to see how this event goes. We're going all in on a lot of different things. We're going to bring the podcast there. We're going to do a live show from there, which would be pretty dang cool.
I'm excited about that, man. I'm actually going to make a post about it here soon on Facebook, on my personal channels and stuff. But there's some things we got to work out, some details, and we'll talk about that afterwards, after this, and if we have time. And I said like the most times I've ever said and. But yeah, man. So I forgot where I was going because I got distracted in my own thoughts. This is why I shouldn't drink Skier Pee while doing a podcast.
Oh yeah. So shout out to Skier Pee. James Wicker was on technically earlier today.
Yeah, but this is probably gonna go out first.
Oh, okay. So you'll see that episode a little bit later on. But anyways, he brought some craft wine.
Yeah, might as well promote it a little bit.
Evergood Elixirs. Andrew always gets it backwards. He says Elixirs Evergood, but it's actually Evergood Elixirs. So Andrew, I've had a sip of it too, but we've been enjoying some of that stuff. It's been great. But no, for next year's, the initial question you asked is for next year. We have a couple different things that we're planning for that, but perhaps
Southern Colorado,
a camper van only festival, perhaps maybe in one of the best locations in Colorado, maybe Garden of the Gods. Hopefully we'll see if I can put that into the universe. Maybe Rockledge Ranch, which is actually the original location we wanted to do for the Tiny House Jamboree, which is the initial event I was actually a part of.
Which got you into the whole.
Lightning in the Bottle was that festival for sure.
And we'll give a little history on that, how that went for you.
Yeah. Real quick, if you guys haven't seen my initial episode, I was involved in I was a marketer for a local builder here in Colorado Springs, a tiny house builder that was
while you were in college.
While I was still in college, I was finishing college, and I had like a marketing club that got young marketers or wannabe marketers linked up with local business owners and gave free labor just to learn marketing. And I was running that, and I was also running some paid internships. So I started with a local tiny house builder here. I didn't know what the heck a tiny house was. It was 2014. I was 23 years old, and just wanting to be a part of special things and just diversify my portfolio as a marketer, as a young marketer. Only really knowing social media. So long story short, we're in a parade of homes with a tiny house, and we end up just making a huge dent in the Colorado Springs market, and or I guess a big splash in the market as far as like an overall best of show. Is we got the People's Choice Award for best of show, which is a typical show of parade of homes is like a bunch of big mansions that are showcased throughout the course of 17 days. We have to buy tickets to and to see these really nice houses that builders put on display. And they hated us because we were definitely anything but a large, huge mansion that was like fancy, like where you have to take your shoes off. We didn't do any of that. We were doing bocce ball and having all this fun. So it started a lot of friction between us and local builders in Colorado Springs. So in lieu of that, we didn't leave the Parade of Homes, but we did. We're like, you know what? That same weekend, let's do our own festival. Mm-hmm. Let's do our own event and see what happens with it. That builder put me in charge of running it as a director of operations. I didn't know what the heck I was doing at all.
Yeah.
I was just a kid that just knew how to throw parties because I was a young kid, and just used those skills, put pen to paper. And so long story short, we thought if that was going to be a success, 2,000 people would come. That'd be freaking cool. Over the course of 3 days, 40,000 people came to the mining museum, and it was huge. Got it right up in the New Yorker. It was a big deal here in Colorado Springs for something of that magnitude that wasn't really promoted to the best of our ability as best as we could, because I was just doing everything organically on Facebook. But the word evidently got out.
Which kind of leans it into you going back into this year and going full, putting all the eggs in your basket into social media. Like, that's kind of how you started this whole thing in the first place, right? Because you really took off on social media with that first opportunity that you were given. And so it's really cool to see that come full circle for you.
Totally, yeah. It was the very first viral post I've ever been a part of. Mm-hmm. We posted a simple poster online. Actually, a couple people who were like super fans of just the tiny house movement shared it. It had 100,000 views organically on Facebook in beginning of 2015. Yeah. As somebody, that's pretty much impossible now to do.
Yeah.
So it was just the right timing. It was a need that was just erupting in the United States for affordable living, which is a big piece of what tiny houses represents. So it's not just like these funky houses on wheels. They're like essentially trailers. No, they're high quality craft.
It's a movement.
They're high quality, well crafted houses that erupted in a need of affordable living, especially in Colorado, as a lot of us know as young people living here as millennials. It's a challenge to get a house. So this is all a result of that, right? So it's the same thing with van conversions, camper vans, however you want to call it, school bus conversions. All those different things are a reflection of the times that are going on now. So I'm lucky to be a man that's at the forefront of a lot of that. So I'm just blessed for that opportunity. That's what spurred this, me being involved in this for so long and loving this thing for as long as I've been doing it for. And just making it an event that always represents the market. So maybe next year is more vans than tiny houses. Maybe we have to change the name. I like to dub it as People's Fest because I have that handle on Instagram. That was always my initial plan at inception, was be like, it's probably won't always be tiny houses. Maybe it's going to be mostly vans, or maybe it's going to be something else. But you know what? The people are going to reflect that. So People's Fest, right?
I like it.
So that was always the initial plan too, was to dub it so people start calling it People's Fest. Mm-hmm. And just something that Colorado can be proud of, man. It just gives us a little bit more flavor. We're the largest beer market. We started with pot. There's a lot of things that make Colorado flavorful, colorful Colorado, right? Mm-hmm. I want this to be something else that does the same thing.
Yeah, that's cool, man. So next year you may do some vans. You may focus on the vans actually. Would you think about doing 2 separate events, or is that too much?
No, that's what's
you like too much. That's what you.
Personally, I love the vans. That's what I like. I like the freedom and how inconspicuous it can be to be in a van in downtown Denver and just park overnight in a parking lot.
Oh yeah.
You can't do that with a tiny house. You're gonna get all the eyeballs in the world bringing a dang tiny house in downtown Denver. Let me tell you that.
There's a tiny van that parks close to where I park, and it's actually from Hawaii, which is a funny coincidence. But they park and they put up their little things in their windows, and they're there every night. They were. I think they're gone now. They were probably just traveling, but yeah, it's just cool. I don't know why I brought that up. But because you were talking about how you could just park, and like they have found this spot, which they found a very optimal spot. It took me like 2 hours of driving around when I first got this office down here to find a spot that wasn't by a meter. So they probably did that too. But but yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure, man. I mean, that's been going on for a long time. I know. It's the funny thing is like it used to be uncool to be in the van down by the river. Well, now that's the cool thing, which is hilarious to me. And I think it's, again, a reflection of the times. It's a reflection of what's going on. It actually represents freedom a lot more. There's a lot more digital nomads. There's a lot of folks who are living remotely and living a lifestyle they can from a computer and phone. That's all they need. And that's another little sub-track within this whole thing that I'm trying to grab a hold of. Mm-hmm. It's huge. I mean, we were talking about Elon Musk doing the van life. We were talking about before this Steve-O and his podcast. What is it at?
It's out of a van. Yeah.
So there's
a funny
something
thing
here.
They were talking about. Oh yeah. They were saying that it's like Bang Bus for philosophy or something. I don't know, but
I remember that.
Yeah, that was kind of funny. But yeah, he's doing the podcast out of the van. He likes how he can just go to people. It doesn't take time out of their day. He can just come to them. That's kind of his thinking behind it. And it's cool that he's adapted that to the podcast world. And like, I love the van life. I didn't know how much I loved it until I met you. Mm-hmm. But I know my friend. He's been doing that for a while, probably since 2014. Since you've been doing it, you know, wow. Maybe 2015ish. But he was living out of a van that he converted, and he had like a few other places. It was actually by the river, by the Missouri River. And then one time, like a couple years ago, 3 years ago, the Missouri River started flooding a lot. And so like he had to get all of his stuff out of there. Like the water went all the way up to like the coast. Like it was bad. The water was going like really far. But yeah. So yeah, I've seen some people who have really, really been in it and really, really have did it. And yeah, so it's cool. I would like. I'm considering getting a boxable. I'm considering maybe not even that. Maybe even going through Living Vans. Brian's company, Brian Ross Maneth, who owns Jack's Axe Throwing. Always got to plug. Always be plugging. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking about converting a van through that. Like that may be something that I want to do. It really depends on what I want to do. My goal is like a lot of people might not know this. I didn't know this. You can get mortgages for these things. Like you can get a home mortgage for your tiny house, for your living van. I guess it depends on your credit. It depends on who you're going through and all that stuff. But that's an option. You don't have to have the $50,000 right now, or the however much it costs, $80,000, $100,000. Like you could run the gamut, honestly. I mean, depending on what your finishes are and your location, where you want to get the land and all that stuff. But it could be it. Think of it as you're becoming a homeowner. Like that's how you should look at the tiny house if you're looking into getting a tiny house or even a living van. And I think that's the perfect kind of lifestyle for me for sure.
Yeah, I think there's always a stage in everybody's life, especially for single people who are young, who are starting to get a little bit more stable financially, that can make that leap. It speaks to them too. So it's funny because we started incorporating. I mean, in the very beginning, there was only one van at the festival. Now there's a lot. There might be more vans this year than there might be tiny houses. It always changes, but it's again tackling the different stacks of people. The young people like the vans. The young people more gravitate towards the vans. But now there's the Mercedes Sprinter van. Okay, so that's probably out of reach for young people again because, it's a wicked out. It's a nice van.
And it's
big. Very nice. It's 100. I mean, I drove one the other day. That was $150,000. But it was nice. And again, like you were talking about financing, I have a client for my company, Recon Marketing. Shout out to Recon Marketing. That we have a client that VanWorks out of Fort Collins. They'll be at the festival. They're a sponsor. Check them out. They're awesome. VanWorks.com.
Okay, yeah.
But they do that. They have an RVIA certification, which means they can do. That's actually originally how tiny houses got started too, as far as being able to finance them as well as the RV code is essentially how they're getting around it for the financing. But yeah, you can finance like a 15, 30-year loan, mortgage, or whatever you want to call it for your van. Okay, well your van costs $80,000. But if you do a loan out for that long, it's like $150 a month, So
that boxable, it's $50,000, $49,500, but if you go on their website, it breaks down to like a $250 a month payment. Like it depends on obviously your mortgage and what you got going on and how long that is. 15 or 30 years, that's double or less, or half, depending on which one it is. But yeah, that's amazing to think about, because even if you get like something that is like a boxable, this is something that I've recently done research on, so I know a lot about it. So it's like, even if you get that, like, say you have to find land, you have to build foundation, and you have to run site work, piping, and all that stuff to it, if it's not already there. And so say that adds up to maybe another 10 to 50,000. Say you're sitting around 80 to or 60 to 100,000. You divide that into like a 30 or a 15-year mortgage. It's still like, you're still talking about like a $400, $500 a month like mortgage, which is ridiculous. Like, so it's like, it's still very affordable. There's options, and like, I know we're not trying to sell tiny houses here. We're talking about a festival. Get your tickets. But I mean, this is it's in the realm of what we're talking about. So yeah.
Yeah, man, it's worth diving into. Because a lot of people are gonna have questions. They don't know where to place them. Is there a place to place them? Well, it depends on the coding and the zoning. So
come to the festival and find out.
Yeah, it's not an easy answer.
Do you guys provide that kind of information to help people get into it?
100%. Yeah. So we have a stage that's gonna have there's one big panel that's going to happen on Saturday. I think it's at 2:00. I have to look at that, but it's going to be around that time on Saturday, the first day, the opening day of the festival. That's going to talk specifically around the coding. So that's going to be a good one. It's going to be a panel discussion. So there's going to be people who are just thought leaders in the movement who are going to talk about it. And that's going to be a real important one, because we had people reach out and ask about that. That's going to be a part of it. Live music is going to be a part of it. One thing that we do at the festival too is we're very pro-veteran. My best friend committed, he had PTSD suicide is what they call it. So we have a nonprofit that I'm on the board of called Mattersville. They've been on an episode as well. They're going to be there. And what we do is we have an award called the Paul Wedgwood Award. And it's a veteran representing courage and strength in the community. But they have to be a veteran. The very first year, the year of inception, we gave it actually to his mother, who's not a veteran. But it's the only year we're ever going to give it to a non-veteran. But yeah, we're going to be presenting that award as well on Sunday. So there's going to be a lot of cool little side things that are going to be there at the festival. There's going to be wolf dogs, because that's part of Mattersville.
Yeah.
Canines, they're therapeutic. They're therapy animals. So we're going to have wolf dogs there, which is funky and weird. That's what tiny houses are all about. We're going to have axe throwing there. Jack's Axe is going to be there.
Yeah.
Funky, weird stuff that's out of the box. That's what I've always been about.
You're going to have me there, and I'm a funky, weird guy.
We're going to have Andrew Hasley there. He's going to be a funky, So we'll be doing something. And the cool thing about the podcast there, and we could talk a little bit more about this, but I mean, a lot of these people are business owners, right? Even the people living in the vans or living in the tiny houses, or, there's going to be vendors there, builders there. There's a huge pool for us to pull from that we can talk to at the festival. And it's going to be super fun, man. People are going to love it. And I think the placement of the stage is going to be cool. You're going to have a lot of eyeballs on you.
It's going to be our first live. Like, this is how we know we are a legit ass podcast.
Yeah.
Because we're going on a live stage. There's a few podcasters who have done this. I don't think Joe Rogan's ever done this, but there's a few podcasters that I admire who have done this. Kevin Smith, with some of his podcasts, what he'll do is he'll go on tour to different Comic-Cons, and they'll be on stage, and they'll just record their podcast on stage. David Dobrik, he's done the Views podcast. They did like a tour for their podcast. Like, the world we live in is amazing. Like, we got people who are touring for podcasts, touring to sit on stage and talk. So we'll definitely come up with some ideas. We'll brainstorm some things of what we're going to talk about, how we're going to present ourselves, and the value that we can provide. But we're going to be doing it live on stage, the first ever episode of the COS Business Podcast in front of a live audience. Like, I mean, it's not even a studio audience. It's a live tiny house audience.
Yeah, it's gonna be good. We have an amphitheater in front of us too, so it's gonna be fun, man.
Yeah.
And not to mention that, I mean, just depending on how we want to run it. I mean, we have a lot of cool vendors. We have Red Truck Beer Company. That's gonna be our official beer sponsor for the festival. We have Denver Distillery at the historic district of Denver. That's gonna be there as well. So we're gonna have some fun. Maybe we have a beer and we're just hanging out and we're chatting with other entrepreneurs or business owners over there and just enjoying ourselves. We will be south-facing, so we'll probably have some sun in our eyes. So it's just going to be more laid back, more fun. It's going to be a little bit against our normal format of the show, but maybe that's what we need to venture out to and just try. Why not? Why not, right? We have these tools at our disposal where other business... I mean, beyond the COS Business Podcast, we are business owners of other businesses. And it's kind of cool to see that when those worlds collide. Recon Marketing will be there.
Yeah.
Obviously, this is my festival, so that's my other company. Like, and you, like, we want to bring other things in. There's a way we can bring in Vehement there, you know?
Yeah.
So I've always loved that. I love colliding into other worlds and seeing what comes of it. Usually great things. And that's what that's all about, man.
Yeah, man, I'm excited. Yeah, man, this conversation has just been flowing. And, like, if we let this go to an hour, it'll be the third episode in one day that it went to an hour. I don't know if we can do that, man. I've been just, like, running my mouth, you know?
We've had some good people on here.
Yeah, we've had some good guests. We got Ed. We had James. You know, Ed and James. You know, those are two good names, too. But, yeah, man.
Yeah, well, again, thanks so much for, allowing me, for us to have this opportunity to promote the festival right before it is super special to me. So I appreciate, all the time and effort that it's gone into us building this thing, which is like our little passion baby of like a lot of hard work that we do this thing on. I mean, we put a lot of time and effort into. I mean, we've been here since 9 a.m. Yeah. It's now 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and we're busy guys. I'm playing a festival. You have a whole other video production company that you're running, that you're building right now. I mean, this is what this is all about. This beyond just promoting our businesses. We do this for the community, and I appreciate that, man. That's something that I've always started. This is why I started the festival is for the community. It's not just a festival celebrating simple living and affordable living. It's to promote and celebrate local businesses, which is going to be at the festival as well. Vendors and all those different people who are Colorado, owned and operated, man. That's what it's all about. I mean, that's why I love this backdrop of this wood, man. Yeah. It's almost those Colorado colors, and yeah, I love that.
Brian knew he needed to hook it up, and he did. He was like, this is a good idea. Let's make this even better, And that's why I love about Brian too. Is like he's got such a good personality. He's such a great guy that really wants to help people. And when he sees something like the podcast, he really wanted to. Like, there's so many vibes that I get from so many people. What I'm getting at is, and I got nothing but good vibes from Brian, and it drew me to him, and I think it inspires me to want to be more like that, like the way Brian is with how he is with people, and I love that because it's infectious, and it's really cool. There's one thing I wanted to. Oh yes, I wanted to in light of what you were just saying about the podcast. I kind of want to dive into more of outside of the Tiny House Festival. When you found this podcast, what was your ideas of it? When Brian I guess showed you, was it Brian that showed you?
Yeah, I stumbled upon it a little bit too.
Okay. You stumbled upon it before Brian?
Yeah. Oh, okay. No. I heard about it a little bit before
okay.
Before he was ever on the show, or he introduced me to you, which is also a hilarious story about him. He didn't show up.
Yeah.
We were supposed to meet at Wayfinder Coffee
up
funny. North, and he didn't show up. He overslept his alarm, and me and you just awkwardly met in a really cool, cohesive way. But
for sure.
We definitely didn't get introed at all. We just kind of started our conversations.
Yeah. And it really, really just made sense, and things just were clicking. Like, we had no idea like that it was going to evolve into a partnership, but at least I didn't. but I knew that your vibes that I was getting from you as well were the same kind of vibes I was getting from Brian, and it was just cool. And so I guess my question is, what was your thoughts of the show initially?
I have this little I have 3 other businesses, but one thing I always like to do is I like to give people a lot of value and then hover. And if it's a new venture and I'm hovering and I see it's viable and I see that person is a viable possible business partner, meaning they're starting it and they're holding and they're keeping this thing afloat and it's actually growing and it has opportunity, I'll jump on it. Yeah. And it kind of checked all those boxes out when I saw you that. And I was like, man, I have a couple like suggestions about this and that, and like just little tweaks here and there. And like I saw that like you're no holds bar about making this thing special, making this thing seamless, making this thing professional, and becoming a better host. Like I've seen over the past few months of being here with you of how much better everything has been so tight and dialed in, and we have so much further to go, right?
Oh yeah, so much further.
But
every episode I've thought that.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. But I mean, man, it's been a really good partnership. I really do appreciate not only like the partnership, but like the friendship that we've developed through this thing.
Definitely,
and,
man.
Our ability to let our hair down and be comfortable with one another, but also like our way of, like we said in my initial episode, business is business. So when we need to like be on one another about certain things, we understand that. Roger that. We get it. I screwed up or whatever it might be.
For sure.
That's what it's all about, man. And and as me is doing all these different things and having different teammates in my other businesses, that's what's most important. If you're not able to be frank and real with one another when it's in the heat of whatever, it's not going to work. There's been so many opportunities where there's been friction and then everything collapses. And I know that's not the right situation for me. I'm a no holds bar kind of guy. I get a lot of my fulfillment from grinding and working my butt off because it makes the finish line, at least the seeming finish line, the goal, whatever, so much sweeter to me. And I've always been that way. I grew up with a family that worked really hard, and I appreciate that. I'm driven by gratitude, you know. And so when I see that from other people, I'm like, yeah, I want to be a part of that. I want to jump on that stuff, you know. That's what I want to, you know, I want to go to battle with you to do what we need to do to make this thing really special. And again, our goals for this is, I mean, we're going to be challenging Joe Rogan hopefully one day. That'd be freaking awesome.
Oh,
you know?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like we already are. I mean, even though the numbers don't say so, but I feel like the level that we're doing things. And so, was there any specific things that stood out when you saw the show?
Yeah, there was a lot. I love the format. I love business. I love community. That's almost like you have a high quality. It's about the community, and then again, it's reaching into, and that's what makes podcasts so awesome, right? It's like you have interview shows, you have talk shows, but it's just a bunch of bullshit. You know, this is an authentic interview. This is an authentic discussion. I love that. I've always loved podcasts.
Yeah,
we've bounced ideas about podcasts over and over. I have a knowledge base of podcasts. And so I've always wanted to start one. Actually, that's how we initially started talking, is because I actually wanted to do one and rent out the space, and you were going to produce it. So, what really stuck out with this specific COS business podcast was just you as a host, man. I think
really?
You're a beam of light, and I think that you're just a really likable guy, you know, and people can really let their hair down in front of you, and that's a skill, man. Not many people can do that. You know, you come off as just a very easygoing beam of light, and people love that about you. You know,
I appreciate. I receive that as hippies would say, but no, as I would say too, because I like that saying. But I do receive that. That's awesome, and I really feel like you said, like it's just a conversation, but like there's some validity in what you're saying that's outside of just, you know, you being my friend and bias off of that, because I've had multiple people tell me that exact same thing, how they came here and they felt like comfortable. Someone left a review for Vehement Visuals actually because they came to the podcast and they said that I was allowed them to feel comfortable in front of the camera, and they never feel comfortable in front of a camera. So that was a huge thing. And I also think another aspect about the podcast is, this podcast specifically is not just the quality, but the willing. There's certain things that people do that really show the serious dedication that they have for it, like renting out a studio space downtown for a podcast. Most people would just do it in their basement or their side room or their office, and then they would invite people over. Like, that's typically how podcasts go, like, or on Zoom because of COVID. COVID brought light to the Zoom meeting or the Zoom podcast. I mean, that already existed, but it really accelerated, became prolific. And one thing that I'm very proud to say is we have not had one episode on Zoom. Every single episode has been in person. And even if Gary Vaynerchuk came to me today, okay, I still say this, I might let him do a Zoom, but but I still, like, I want to hold strong to that. I won't let him do a Zoom. Actually, he'll have to come to Colorado Springs. He doesn't even like mountains, and he'll have to come to Colorado Springs, and that's what I really want to stand strong on. I think that'll show the I don't know what it shows, but it shows something very, very, very stern, very, very, very powerful. I can't think of the word.
Well, man, it's authentic when you interview people in person, right? We feed off each other's body language. We're going off each other's cues right now. Mm-hmm. There's something to be said. I mean, we're social animals, man. Like,
as Duncan Trussell put it, he put it as I forget how he said it, but it was we're feeding off each other's smell hormones or something like that.
Absolutely. And it gets hot in this room. No.
Yes, it does. The intro music already kind of sounds like porno music.
Yeah, that was on purpose too.
Yes, exactly. That's why we turn up the heat.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, like this show, that's one thing I love about it. I'm not afraid to talk about anything. Like I'm like most people. Like yes, I do want to represent the community in a good way, but I also want to stay authentically true to myself as well. Like I understand that. This isn't just a podcast. This is a podcast that represents our city. So I got to make sure that it's representing that in a right. I got to be responsible in that aspect as well. But I also got to not filter myself. I don't think maybe a little bit, but yeah.
I think the average Coloradan, like this average person from the Springs, is probably they're a lot like you. You know?
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, I think you represent it really well, man. To be honest with you, I think you're doing a great job. I think you're at the pulse of downtown. You know the 1 Million Cups community very well, which is again the heart of entrepreneurs in the Springs who are trying to better one another. That's an organization that's specifically for supporting one another through, what were we talking about before? Like TED Talks for small businesses that we were saying in the last episode. It's the same thing, man. Like that's awesome. We have a big support system here, and you have a lot of people who have your back. And so with that being said, like you have a very good feel for what this city is for the entrepreneurial spirit. And I mean, with your hand on that pulse, like there's no way you can lose,
Mm-hmm. Okay. What was that sound? Was the little thing in the corner? Oh, the camera's died. All right. So we're going to shut this down. This has been the COS Business Podcast. I don't know why the one died. But that's how we're going to end this episode abruptly. Thank you for that last thing you said.
We never had that happen.
Okay, I like those abrupt stuff. Yeah. You got lint in your beard right here.